To the Living Proof Recovery Podcast. I am your host, Brian. This is actually voted on YouTube as the sexiest podcast on YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It just got sexier because I am joined tonight by my friend Chad. Evan can't be here tonight, so Chad is filling in for Evan. So I'm going to let Chad introduce himself, tell you guys a little bit about himself, and then we're just going to have a little honest, open conversation.
Yeah, man. My name is Chad Strand. I've got a sobriety date of 8/24 of 2015. I've got a sponsor and a home group and a higher power, and I'm grateful for all of that.
Cool. Yeah, so we have a few things in common, right? We attend the same home group.
Yes.
We have the same sponsor.
Yeah.
So I can attribute Sean being my sponsor to you. Actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was looking for a new sponsor, and I was standing outside of the meeting one night, and I just heard you talking about him, about how he doesn't put up with any bullshit, and about how he's solution minded. And it's like, yeah, he might hear the problem for about 3 seconds, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? And I heard that, and I was like, that's the guy I need. And then he walked up and like hugged you, and I was like, oh, that's him. And I was like, I've seen him around, and I was like, so that's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of owe that to you, actually, without you even knowing,
no,
right? So a lot of times we don't know, right? Like who we're helping just by showing up.
That's right.
Sometimes we just got to show up, right? So I had something that I wanted to kind of talk to you about tonight. Just a little topic, something that's been bouncing around in my head today, and it kind of, the theme of it, right, is adapting and overcoming, right? So life's
Sure does.
right? Whether we're sober or we're still getting high and drunk, life happens, right? And that's how we find out like what our character really is how do we react? How do we adapt when things happen? Right. So something was brought to my attention today, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I'm just going to be honest. It's a character defect of mine that it annoys me, of when I see this victim mentality of poor, pitiful me.
Yeah.
Poor, pitiful me. I can't catch a break. And it's like, dude, like, I get it. Life's hard sometimes,
Right.
But what are we going to do about it? Kind of like you were describing how Sean is, it's like, what are we going to do about it? Like, let's, okay, we cried about it for a few minutes. Now let's take some action. Let's do something about it. And what was brought up was the part of the 9th step promises in AA, right? And there's a line in there that says, fear of economic insecurity will leave us, right? And I think sometimes we tend to add words to these promises. We make them our own, right? So that doesn't mean I'm not going to have problems, that I'm not going to have financial struggles or issues, right? So, and what the person was basically saying was fuck AA, fuck God, because if any of that stuff worked, I wouldn't have financial problems. And I was just like, come on. This is that's a little too much.
Right.
It's like, okay, like we have problems, but I think what I was saying is how we can like add words to that is fear of economic insecurity will leave us forever.
Right.
It's like, that's not what it says. It doesn't say that we'll never have problems. It doesn't say that life won't show up. What it says is that when it does, if we are spiritually fit, and if we're working the program and we're in all 3 parts of the program, that we'll know how to deal with those things, right? We intuitively know how to handle things that used to baffle us.
Yeah. So I got a little carried away on, for starters, like fear of financial insecurity. Like I used to think that there was a number to that would make me feel whole, right?
Like, what do you mean?
Well, I meant like, rather it was, just pick a number, whether it's 50,000, 100,000, $1 million, whatever it was, like there, a new pair of shoes or a new truck or X amount of dollars in my bank account would make me feel whole, right? And so I worked really hard to acquire that number, and I was still empty, right? And so, the fear of economic insecurity, it's not necessarily, for me, it's not that you're going to be financially sound, right? It's just that whether you have it or you're not, you're still good, right?
That's a great way to say it.
And I went through a moment where I got carried away. I'm learning how to grow up, and next thing you know is that I've got a job and I got credit, and I've got 10 credit cards, and they all got something on it, right? And so the part of the program is that it doesn't have the answers for everything. Mm-hmm. But if you're honest and open-minded and willing enough, you can find people that have those answers. And Dave Ramsey's the one that had the answers for me. Financial security. And it was like, hey, quit being, you had your fun, suck it up, buttercup, eat some beans and rice. And when you get sick of that, switch it and eat some rice and beans.
Yeah.
and put some money in, put some cash in an envelope. And, and so, I've went through those trials. And so, I think the financial insecurity does not mean that, like you said, that life's not going to happen and that you're not going to have problems. I mean, especially physically, life is expensive in general. Yeah. And so it's just a matter of rather I have $1 or $100 in my pocket, I'm still me. And I'm not below anybody and I'm not above anybody. I'm still me. And back in the day, I was really kind of defined by how my pocket looked.
Mm. Yeah, so it kind of makes me think, right? So we put the drink down, we put the pipe down, or whatever it is, right? And then I pick up the fork, or I pick up the credit cards,
yep.
Or I pick up, I don't know,
Gambling was my jam. Yeah.
Porn, whatever.
Yeah.
If I don't find something to fill that hole, I will find a way to fill it.
Yeah.
With something destructive.
Yeah. Chad likes to destroy Chad. Without God, I am in self-destructive mode. And there are a million ways to destroy yourself that have nothing to do with alcohol and drugs.
Absolutely, because it's the behaviors, right?
Exactly.
So it's if the behaviors don't change and if the thinking doesn't change, then I'm doing the same thing, right? Even though I'm not drinking, I'm still showing up as the same person, right? There hasn't been any growth. There hasn't been any change. Now I'm in bankruptcy court,
right?
Or now I'm 50 pounds overweight,
yep.
So I look in the mirror and I hate myself. And I go, oh, I hate myself. How did I let myself get like this? Okay, so now I'm going to go to the mall and spend a bunch of money on credit cards, on clothes to cover it all up.
Right.
And make myself feel better and spend money on a gym membership and all this stuff. And now I'm chasing that. Right now, the gym is my higher power, or the food is my higher power, or I'm just looking for anything to make me feel better.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter what it is. I can turn something very healthy into something very unhealthy very quickly if my motives aren't good, if my mindset around it hasn't changed. Right. If my thinking hasn't changed.
Right.
Right. All I'm doing is looking for something to make me feel better.
Yeah, or escape how I'm feeling. Like I'm a great escape artist. Let me go get lost in this food. Let me go get lost at the casino. Let me go get lost shopping. Like anything to avoid me being still. Like I really struggled with being still for a long time, and I can see it today. And you spot it, you got it right. Because I was unable to sit in a chair and be quiet for 1 hour. I notice it a lot. Like, at our group, it's pretty quiet, right? There's not a lot of commotion going on. Right. But you go to a newcomers and somebody's went up and got a cup of coffee for the 19th time because they just don't have the ability to be still right now, and
so smoke 6 cigarettes. Bathroom 3 times.
It's a bathroom. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I can just not sit here and be still. And some of those isms can definitely seep out into other avenues. So, the 9 step promises that came true in my life.
Mine as well.
And, I've had, financial issues, but it wasn't doomsday. There was a problem, but there was also a solution.
Right. And see, that's the change, right? That's the shift in character. So it's like, so what I used to do, right, when I would have, I don't know, something happened in my life. Got a flat tire, cars broke down, hot water heater went out, whatever it is, right? It's when it rains, it pours, right? I'm thinking, oh my God, like I can't catch a break. Like, it's this person. So I've always got somebody to blame though, right? It's like, it's either it's your fault or it's her fault or it's my boss's fault. If they just paid me better,
Yeah.
it's like, then my sponsor sat me down one time and he's like, hey, who chose to date that woman? Well, I did. Oh, who picked that job? I did. Oh, okay, so it's kind of like, okay, so where does the responsibility ultimately fall if you want to change some of this stuff, right?
Right.
So it's not like that doesn't mean that everything that ever happens to me is my fault, right? But what it does mean is that I am responsible for how I react to it or for the action that I take to change said circumstance.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's where character that I was talking about, where character comes in, right? Because before I got sober, I didn't have a lick of character.
No.
My character was run, blame, poor pitiful me. Like that was my character, right? So, and then we go through the steps, right? And we start to have this shift. And it says in the 10th step, it says, we have now entered the world of the spirit, right? So, what that tells me is that I'm no longer living in the past. I'm no longer living in the future, that I'm present, right? But until I take all the things that I've learned and acquired in steps 1 through 9 and apply them to my life now, I still don't have any character, right? Because I haven't used any of those things that I've learned in this new life yet, right? I'm starting, and it's like we say it all the time, right? In with the old, or out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah.
Right. Problem is, I've gotten rid of the old, but I haven't walked in the new yet.
Right.
Right. So once I start walking in the new, now I can apply those things, and that shows my character. Right. Because if I'm thinking differently, then I'm acting differently.
Right.
I'm a firm believer in what a man thinks he does.
Right.
Right. So if I think that I'm worth it, if I think that life is good, then I'm going to take steps towards doing positive things.
Yeah,
right?
manifestation.
Right. But if I think that I'm worthless and I'm a piece of shit and I'm never going to catch a break, then that's what I'm going to get.
Yeah,
Right?
it's the universe is kind of crazy the way that it can manifest our thoughts into reality. And the thing about being in self-pity is it's a complete isolation. You don't understand me, you don't understand my problems, you don't understand that there isn't a solution. I'm unique, right?
Yeah.
And so what it does is that
terminal uniqueness.
yeah, and it just puts this barrier between me and everyone else. It is a useful tool for the disease of addiction. Is Self-Pity City, population 1. And I'm there all by myself, and no, I won't let anyone enter that area.
Have you ever had this thought? Just gonna showcase like my sickness. Right?
Sure.
How I used to be, right? Is I get in self-pity and I'd want to be left the fuck alone.
Right.
Like I want, like you said, isolation, right? I want anybody around me. But then, as soon as no one's around me, how come nobody's asking me how I'm doing? Where y'all at? Y'all don't love me? Y'all don't care about me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then
Absolutely.
Then you give me the attention. I'm like, leave me the fuck alone, man.
Right.
Can you just leave me alone? Like, I'm just discontent, right? I'm unhappy no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what you do, what you say. If you give me what I want, that's not what I want.
Right.
Why won't you give me what I want? Well, tell me what it is. Here's what it is. You give it to me? I don't want that.
Right.
Why don't you do what you did earlier?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's sick.
It is.
But that's what goes on when we get in these I don't know what to call them. I get like these valleys, like these, we get down low, and I think it's really key to try to, like you said earlier, be aware, right? To catch these things, before we get to that point. Because then once we get to that point, the smallest thing, man, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's
Sure.
the end of the world.
And it's
then
normally the
spiral.
dumbest thing. It is the
100%.
dumbest thing in my life that will make me
100%.
flip a lid. And it has nothing to do with that one thing. It has to do with these 25 other things going on in my life
Mhm.
that I refuse to address, that I refuse to talk about, that I refuse to pray about. You know, and so it's, you know, a broken shoelace is the thing that makes me lose my mind.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's like when I look at it, it's like, dude, you might have like physically reacted to this or emotionally reacted to this, but the reality is it had nothing to do with that broken shoelace.
No.
It's the fact that you have been avoiding these other issues in your life and not been talking about it, not been praying about it, not been in action about whatever, right? And so it can they can compound pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
I try my darndest to let them out and address them as they come. Sometimes I do good, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, we're not all saying.
but I do. I rarely have a backpack full of them anymore.
No.
And I used to just carry it around my whole life.
Yeah,
Like
and
nothing
not
but-
realize that you're carrying that weight around.
Yeah.
Right? Like gets really heavy. So when I worked at the treatment center, or I'm sorry, not when I worked there, when I was in the treatment center, right? I was self-pity city, you know, so I can talk about this stuff because I've been there, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so I've done it myself.
Mhm.
I'm not coming from some spiritual mountaintop. Like I've definitely done this most of my life. So I remember complaining to one of the techs there, and I picked the wrong tech to complain to, you know, and he was one of these guys that was solution minded. He was just like, dude, shut up.
Right.
You know, he was like, what are you going to do about it? Like, if you're not going to do something about it, shut up. I don't want to hear it.
Right.
And he was like, let me show you something. And he was like, he gave me a bunch of books, and he was like, walk down the hallway with those. It's like, all right. So I did. I walked back, and I was like, what's the point? And he's like, now take these. And he just started piling stuff up. And I was walking up and down the hallway with this stuff. And finally he was like, all right, now put them down. And I put them down and now walk up and down the hallway. I was like, was that a lot easier? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that's that baggage that you're fucking carrying around
Yeah.
every fucking day, but you don't realize you're carrying it around.
Right.
He's like, I can see it. It's written all over your face. As soon as you walked in the room, I knew that some shit was going on with you, but you don't realize it. And I was like, yeah, I guess I don't, you know, because we're not aware of it. It's just become normal
Right.
to isolate and to feel like a victim,
Right.
you know, and because there's power in that. I don't have to do shit as a victim,
Right.
you know.
And I want you to empathize for me. And if you don't, well then how heartless are you?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah, love and tolerance is our code.
right.
You know?
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, co-sign my bullshit.
Exactly.
You know, like, so that's another thing, right? There's a big difference. Like, I believe that there is more than one way to show someone you love them,
Absolutely.
right? Like, so one way is to pat them on the back, encourage them.
Mhm.
Another way is to give them tough love
That's
and
right.
tell them the truth,
Yeah.
right? So I made a decision. My first sponsor, he told me, he's like, we don't lie to drunks.
Right.
We don't lie to drunks. Like, if someone needs to be told the truth, you tell it to them.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
he's like, you don't have to be a dick,
Right.
but, you know, tell them the truth. Like, that's not loving for you to lie and co-sign their bullshit.
Right.
And I was like, it's true, you know, because that's enabling them.
Yeah.
You
We've gotten a little I would say soft
100%.
with our talk as far as how serious it is out there, you know, and love can come in different variations. I remember I was locked up and my bond was like $3,000. I had like 2,700 of it from other people, right? And I was tapped out, hit everyone up. So I called my dad, and my dad, I'm like, I'm $300 shy, and he's like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna let you sit there. And I held it. I hated that man for that for years.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I'm talking years and years.
Right.
And I get sober, and some recovery shirt thing came up on Facebook or MySpace, maybe. I can't even remember where it was, but I look at it, and on the front of the shirt it said "Support, don't enable," and on the back of it said the hardest thing I had to do was nothing at all. And in that moment, every ounce of hate and resentment and everything just went away, and for the first time in my life, I was able to put myself in my dad's shoes and how hard it was for him to just let me sit there.
Yeah.
And make no mistake about it, it was 1,000% out of love. You know, and the best thing for me at the time. Yeah. But it was out of love. It was not out of punishment or discipline. And so I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone needs motivation, but
100%.
Sometimes people need to hear the cold hard truth about rather they're doing great or they're just fucking up, and what that end game looks like if they keep continue.
So I no longer have a relationship with my first sponsor. We used to be really close. We're no longer, we don't talk or anything. But there's one thing that I'm very grateful for from him. There's a lot of things, but one thing in particular is that he didn't enable me. He did not give a happy horse shit how I felt. Because I would go to him like, I feel, he's like, fuck your feelings. Like that, he would just straight out tell me, fuck your feelings. It's like, I'm not worried about your feelings. I'm worried about your life. And I was like, oh man, what a dick. You know. But it was out of love. That was his way of saying, dude, this too shall pass.
That's right.
Your feelings aren't facts.
Yeah.
Let's do something about it. And that helped me so much in my sobriety, because my whole life, people have just been telling me what I wanted to hear.
Sure.
And finally someone had enough backbone to be like, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like, let's go. Come on. Like, okay, yeah, you feel bad. You want to feel better? Okay, then let's do this work.
Yeah.
Let's go help somebody. Then you'll feel better.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I started doing that, and things started to change. And I was like, oh, wow. So it's pretty cool, man. So we talk about adapting and overcoming, right? I know you've had to do that, right? You just celebrated 10 years.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. And I know this isn't your first stint in sobriety.
It's not. No. So I was 56 days away from 10 years, and I used again. Now I didn't relapse 56 days away from 10 years. I used 56 days from 10 years.
It's a good
I probably relapsed as far as behaviors were concerned at year 8. But I really relapsed at year 6. I'd had the same sponsor. His name was Matt, and he unexpectedly died of a heart attack. And I didn't get another sponsor. I mean, like, I asked someone to be my sponsor, but they weren't my sponsor. I mean, us that are, it's like, oh yeah, you guys, you ain't called and you ain't told me what's really going on, but I'm your sponsor. Like,
right.
And that's kind of how I treated it. And I did a pretty good job as
you had a paper sponsor.
Yeah. I mean, if you asked me, I'd say it. And if you asked him, he'd say it. But like, if you'd asked me how Chad was doing, he'd have had no idea. And so, my willingness, willing to go to any length, was no longer there, right? I mean, I wasn't willing to go get another sponsor. I wasn't willing to allow you to be you because I kept comparing you to Matt, right? And so how unfair is that I'm going to compare you to a person that's no longer here? Like, you're you, you're not him, right? And so, but in my mind, I'm comparing you to a guy. And now because my heart is hurt, now he was way better than what he really was, right? Because my heart hurts, right? I love the man.
Yeah.
And so around year 8, I found gambling, and gambling took me to a very dark place. So gambling, and don't get me wrong, I'm a real alcoholic. I mean, the reason why I started snorting other substances was so I could drink more, right? And then, I've used pipes and I've used needles. I mean, I'm that guy.
Right.
But make no mistake about it, I will leave that stuff with you to partake in. I will take some with me, but I will leave here to go gamble.
Right.
Because gambling got me physically higher than than heroin and crack, like literally. And so gambling took me to a real dark place, and you know, and then there's this crazy like ego thing, right? So I'm at like you know, I'm spending money that I shouldn't be spending. I'm lying to people about where I am, you know, and because you know, and so these old behaviors started coming back. And I was just sick, man, sick as sick could be.
Right.
But I mean, I've got 8 years sober. I've got 9 years sober. I've been sober too long to be this sick. So guess what? Here I go into a meeting, you know, spiritually bankrupt, out of my mind, like spent, you know, what, you know, now I'm in debt, full of guilt, shame, and remorse. And what do I want to do? Well, I want to talk about the reading or God or try to help the newcomer instead of talking about how sick I really am at this current moment, right? You know, because pride and ego had came back in and would not allow, again, isolation. I refuse to allow those that could help me in, right? And
Because what will they think of me?
right, exactly. Oh man, you know, I mean, I've how could I tell them that I've goofed up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't drank or used yet, but I mean, all the behaviors were there.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, it was worse. I mean, as far as the deceit. And so then I use and I want to get sober, but I'm crazy. Like I'm just crazy.
Right.
Like I smoke crack. And then I'll go to a meeting and I'll look up and I'm like, you know what? I probably ought to look at step 6 a little closer. I got some character defects that are really flaring up. And it's like, no, no, dude.
You need to look at
Step
one.
1, dude. It's step 1. I hate to tell you, you know, that you need to be there, right? And but that's where my mind would go. And so
It's not funny, but it is.
it is. I mean, well, I can look at it. It's like, dude, you were out of your mind. But
Yeah.
I sincerely would. I go to a meeting. I'd be like, man, Steph, I just got these character defects that are flaring up everywhere. And it was like I was unwilling to look at what my life really was at that moment, full flight from reality. And so then there's a scary moment, man. And if anybody of y'all have been through this or going through this, I'm really sorry, but you're not alone. Is to want it, but just not want it enough to do what you need to do. And that is a very lonely place. And so I went through a cycle of that, man. You know, I was out for almost a year of half-heartedly trying to do it. I mean, you know, wanted to be sober, just wasn't willing to do what it took. And then finally it was like, you know, okay, Chad, you need to get back to the basics. And so, you know, geographical change, it doesn't work. If you don't properly identify the problem. If you've properly identified the problem, a geographical change can help. And that's what I did. I moved here knowing I was the problem. And I went to a club that had a couple meetings a day, and I went morning and night, you know, because I knew that my friends, the ones that were going to save my life, were in those rooms. I'd experienced that. And so, you know, I came here and made darn sure that I knew the people that had $20 in their pocket, right? Like they had a choice to go use, but they chose to get Mexican instead after the meeting, right? And so I started hanging around those people. So, yeah, you know, my ability to adjust to where I really was, it took a lot of pain, you know, and you know, I saw this thing and it says, pain taught me lessons that pride would not let me learn, right? And so when I went into that meeting and I was talking about step 6, right, it's flaring up, it took enough pain to drop that pride down enough to say, dude, you're powerless and your life is unmanageable again, and you just need to be here where you're at. And you know, that's when you accept that, it was a beautiful thing. But my acceptance is easy, man. Acceptance, all you gotta do is make a decision and accept.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, the situation gets better because your vision towards it gets better.
Your perception.
Yeah, my perception, right? But my resistance to acceptance is painful, man.
Man, so you said a lot there, right? And my mind is going like 15 different directions, right? Because you said a lot of really key things in there, right? So one of them being, we have to properly identify the problem. Right. So I'm a firm believer that I don't have step 4 problems. I don't have step 6 problems. They're all step 1 problems, right? Because that's what it all comes down to, right? You talked about willingness, right? Am I desperate? Do I really believe that my life depends on a power greater than myself, right? Because like you said, I'm powerless in step 1, right? So I don't have any power,
Right.
but when I've gotten to this point where I've thought we're like, you know what? I got this, I kind of like you said, like looking at step 6, it's like, no, dude, it's step 1, right? Because I had never properly identified what the problem was.
Right.
To me, the problem was you suck, my ex-wife sucks.
Right.
The IRS sucks. All these people, they suck. My job sucks. All these other people suck. Right. So, but then, thankfully, someone properly armed with the facts was able to tell me, Brian, none of that's your problem, because if we take all that away, you're still going to be unhappy.
Right.
None of that's your problem. You're still going to have this crazy mind, that goes with you everywhere you go.
Yep.
So the problem is that you lack power. You don't have the power to change any of this stuff. That's why you need God. That's why you need a power greater than yourself. And if I'm properly armed with that fact that I have a progressive and fatal disease that is going to kill me,
Mm-hmm.
if I still believe in that, then I will be willing to do whatever it is that I need to do, right? If there's some kind of lurking notion, or I don't fully believe, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of alcoholic, got a drinking problem, but I've been sober for a while, so I can figure it out.
Right.
If my mindset is there, then I'm not desperate.
Right.
And if I'm not desperate, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And that's just been my experience. Like, I'm not dead, obviously, but I was headed towards it.
Sure.
You said a lot of stuff there, man. Like, I've got in my big book, in one of the front pages, it says, pain is not my preferred way of learning, but it is a thorough teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't take any credit, right? The reason that I made it to Alcoholics Anonymous was because alcohol kicked my ass, right? Drugs kicked my ass. And that's why I ended up there. It's not because I woke up one day and said, you know what? I think I'm going to try out this Alcoholics Anonymous thing because I don't like the direction my life is going. It didn't work that way. It beat the shit out of me. It put me in a state of reasonableness to where I was like, okay, I have to do something or I'm dead.
Yeah, it was basically the last option on the block. I either kept trying to do something different, or I kept doing the same thing, but expecting somehow miraculously that it was going to be different. And for a long time there, I genuinely believed that for a long time.
Well, yeah, because something when you were talking it made me think of is delusion.
Right.
We suffer from that.
Yeah.
We suffer from we're delusional. We're insane.
Yeah.
And not insane in the way that we're chopping people up and putting them in bags. We're not serial killers, but we're insane around alcohol and around our thinking.
Any logical person could probably look at my life or your life and say, why didn't you stop at like age 12?
Yeah, like, what are you doing, dude?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on, man. Like, you didn't see how this was going to turn out. And I'm
right.
Like, no, in my mind, this is a great plan.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, how could this not work? Look, I mean, look at
It is a genius
it.
plan.
Yeah,
right?
like I've thought of everything here. Like it's like I got the blueprints out. I'm like, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and then she'll do this, and then I'll do this, and this is all gonna work out right. And then the first thing goes off course, and it's like, it like catches on fire. Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Like, how did that happen?
Right.
It's like, it's crazy. Like, to me, like, it's the way that we think. Which is funny because I'm sponsoring this guy one time, and I didn't sponsor him for very long. It was kind of like, hey, will you sponsor me? And like, yeah. And we talked a couple times, and then I held him accountable, and he didn't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, which happens, hope he's doing well. Yeah. But he came to me. He was in a treatment center, right? And I was taking a meeting up there and talking to him afterwards. And he's like, I want to tell you my plan. And I was like, your plan? And he was like, yeah, I want to tell you my plan. I was like, yeah, tell it to me, because I'm sure it's a beauty. I was like, let me hear this plan. He told me this plan. I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but it was like, I was like, what? You're going to do what? I was like, no, don't do that. I was like, don't do any of this, And I basically told him, I said, what we need to do when you get out of here is make sure you don't have a plan left. We're done with your plans.
Right.
Like, we don't need your plan. Right. Your plan got you here. Like, we don't want any more of your plans, bro. Right. Like, your plan sucks. Just like mine did.
Yeah,
my plan was terrible. Like, my plan equals detox.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we kind of touched roughly on, some things that you had. So how were you able to overcome? So I know you talked about you. So I'm assuming, right, that you finally had to level some of that pride.
Yeah, and not only so, I had to, the biggest part of me overcoming that was just acceptance. I mean, accepting me being right where I was, and that was not an overnight thing. My relapse ate my lunch for a long time in meetings. I remember I wasn't getting coins, right? The next coin I was going to get was my 10-year coin, right. Because that was the next one on the schedule, right? And so, I'm going to a lot of meetings, and I go to the Ice House, and I'm talking to an old timer there, and he pulls another guy over that I think he had 18 years at the time, but his story was similar to mine, and he looked at me and he said, "You're not getting your coins, are you?"
He knew.
Yeah, he knew. You spotted, you got it, right? And because he had obviously felt that pride and ego and unwillingness to be who they were at that moment, right? And so he's like, I need you to go to the biggest, most packed meeting that you absolutely don't want to get your coin. And you go up there and get your coin.
Absolutely.
And so at the time, it was a Friday night meeting at the Roost. It was a very popular meeting that I loved. And I absolutely did not want to walk up there and be who I was at that moment. And I got my coin, and a lot of that pain went away, right? But then, there's a lot of adapting and overcoming with, again, acceptance. So I had a sponsor, and he's great. I mean, I'm not going to speak ill of him, but he took me to a level where I felt that I plateaued, right? And somebody else came into my life that was really worried about, like, my spirit, man, and how me and my higher power are getting along. And so, I got him to be my sponsor, and then he moved, and then I went and got another sponsor, and then they moved, and now I got Sean. And so, through that, I had to. The cool thing about if there's any benefit to my relapse, it's that I have healed from that, and now I have hindsight. Right. And so now I can look back and see what was detrimental to my recovery. Well, what was the phase one? Well, my sponsor died and I didn't get a new one. Right. And didn't use them like a real sponsor. Right. And so now I'm able to look at that with clear vision and say, you will never do that again. Right. And so, adapting and overcoming is a lot of like accepting where I'm at, because a lot of times when I don't adapt and overcome, and I'm going to the same playlist trying to just make it work, right?
Fix, manage, and control.
Yeah, fix, manage, and control this thing, and how am I'm going to handle this thing.
That's the problem.
Is that it's my resistance, right? It's my resistance to acceptance, and it's painful.
Have you ever heard the phrase "alcoholics don't like change"?
A little bit.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that's not really true. Like, I don't like change that I don't like. Right? I like, tell me, hey, we're going to promote you. Great, that's a change. I like that.
Right.
Right. You just hit the lottery. Now your life's changed. Oh, great. I like that.
Right.
Because I like that change.
Mhm.
Right. That change doesn't take action on my part. It doesn't take discipline. It doesn't take responsibility. Right. So it's not that it's not the change that's the problem. It's the resistance to the change. And that's kind of what you were just talking about, right? So like surrender.
Right.
Right. And I think I've talked about this on here before. There's two states of surrender. There's the active surrender. That's when we come in, it's day one, or we're just out of a rehab, and it's like, please help me. I'm done. Right? That's the active surrender. Then there's the state of surrender. Totally different thing, right? That's like where you're at now. It's a state of surrender. That's what keeps the old timers around.
Yeah.
It's the state of it. Is like what you mentioned earlier is, even if things aren't going my way, I'm going to be okay because I know what I need to do, right? I know I need to not try to fight this, and I need to accept it. That is the state of surrender or of acceptance. It's a lot different. It's kind of like knowing God's will and doing God's will, right?
Right.
They're different things, right? Like we all know God's will. For the most part, like we know what we're supposed to. We know what's right, what's wrong, right?
Right.
We know what we're supposed to do. Doing it is a totally different task.
It is.
Right. It's challenging, so I think that kind of comes into play with what you were saying. It's like, yeah, like a lot of us don't like change because because fear, right? Fear comes
Fear of the
in.
unknown, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fear comes in. I'm either, so we can correlate fear anytime to I'm either going to lose what I already have or I'm not going to get what I want.
Right.
So where's this fear coming from? But so there's more than one benefit that you were saying, right, to your relapse, right? Because the first one that popped in my head is there's someone out there that's going to be in a meeting or that you're going to run into on the job site or that's going to hear this podcast that had a significant amount of sobriety time and relapsed.
Yeah.
And maybe they're on month 6 now and they're thinking, I ain't getting no chip until I hit 8 years where
Yeah.
I was at, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, or I don't see how I can make it back there. I lost all that. I don't see how I can make it back there. But you're proof sitting here that can happen.
Yeah,
Right?
and
So that's a big benefit.
it is, and it's happened.
It has. Okay.
Yeah, not that long ago. I went up to the healing place to meet my friend, and there's something really healing about someone looking in the eyes and saying, "Me too, man." And so
That's most important 2 words I've heard since I got sober.
yeah, and so when you're in that moment and you can't see a way out,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to go up and say, look, bro, there's still a big, beautiful life ready for you.
Yep.
It gave him hope and it healed me. It's like, there's when you can find, and it's clear as day, purpose in your pain, and it's that obvious that Chad, we're going to use your fuck up and go use it for this guy to get some hope. When it is that black and white, man, it is it's healing and it's magical.
Yeah,
it really is, because there's only in the recovery fellowships can you talk about the most craziest stuff. And somebody says me too, or it's like a beacon of hope, right? I mean, nobody would talk about the stuff that I did and you think
They're calling the cops.
yeah, exactly. And so now they're like, oh, really? Well, maybe I can too,
You ain't out of a dumpster too?
right? Yeah, dude, it's something just super powerful. And only God can do that, man. Only God can take that, the most tragic mistakes of my life, and use it for a beacon of hope.
I mean, I think that's why we're here. I really do. Like, I really believe that. And because it's happened to me too many times, to look at it any other way. Like, there's been times I've shared my story in meetings. I remember the first time I ever shared my story, I was in rehab, right? My first inpatient rehab. And they had this meeting once a week where one of the clients would tell their story up to that point, right? Of course, there wasn't much recovery, solution, but how you got here, right? And so whoever did it the previous week would nominate someone. So, I'm just sitting in the meeting, and guy tells me, he's like, "You're speaking next week," and I was like, "Fuck, I am." I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "No, I'm not," and he was like, "You're really just not going to do it?" I was like, "No, I'm not doing it." And for about 2 days, I was like, "I'm not fucking doing it, dude. Find somebody else." Fear. I was like, I can't get up in front of 50, 60 people and tell them all the grimy things I'm ashamed of. I can't do that, And I remember one of the counselors there came up and said, "So you're speaking, right, next week?" I said, "No, I'm not doing it." She said, "That's what I heard." She said, "How selfish are you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Why don't you want to speak?" And I said, "Well, because I don't want to put myself out there, and I want to say, oh yeah, so it's all about you, right?" And I was like, "This bitch," And she called me straight out. And there's a lot of that in my story, of people just going, "Hey, dude, pull your head out," This ain't about you. And so finally, I was like, "I'll do it," and I did it. And I talked about stuff that I had never talked about in front of other people before. Maybe on a therapist's couch.
Right.
And I shared about some childhood sexual abuse in front of 60 people. And I'm up there, I'm crying and I'm shaking and nervous as hell. I'm just like, and afterwards, 3 different men came up to me and was like, "Dude, thanks for doing that, man. Me too."
Right.
And I've never told anybody, and I'm going to go talk to my therapist about that. And I was like, wow.
Right.
And they're like, "You really helped." Like, I really helped these people. Like, just because I was suiting up and showing up and doing something I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a lot of times is a good barometer to tell if someone really wants to get sober. Like, when you're flat out ready to do some things that you just don't want to do, that's a good indicator, to me at least, that, hey, you're willing.
Yeah, when I see, I don't like, when I see a newcomer that's just absolutely infuriating because they had to come early to set up the tables and take down the chairs. Like, there's a piece of me that just smiles because it's like, okay, I see your willingness, right?
Yeah.
You are doing something that you clearly have stated you do not want to be doing. And lo and behold, it's those that tend to, it's those that have the willingness to do whatever their sponsor said that tend to make it the next day, right? And talking about like the selfishness, I'd been sober for about 3-4 months, something like that. Been going to meetings every day, and I missed like 2 or 3 meetings. And I went to my sponsors. He worked at a auto body store. His family owned it, and he's like, "Hey man, I ain't seen you past 2 nights." And I was like, "Well, I'm good. Like, I watched some movies." And he got right in my face, and he's like, "You selfish son of a bitch. What if somebody there needed you?" And that was the first time in my life that I ever thought that I'd been coming to recovery and just taking, right?
Yeah.
And you took me to where
me too.
Right. And I took to where I felt like I could stay at home for a night and not use, which was the first time in my life that I ever felt that. And I never for once thought, you know what, maybe somebody there was struggling, right? Yeah. Maybe somebody there needed to either hear my story or needed me, right? Maybe they just needed me to be in the chair so they weren't alone. Right. Yeah. I mean, like, maybe it wasn't anything that I said, just me being there.
Or it could be something somebody overhears you say to somebody else.
Yeah. You just never know.
It won't happen if you're not there.
Exactly. And it was the first time that I had thought about recovery from a not taking perspective. Right. And yeah, so I mean, even in recovery, even now, like, I still have extremely selfish moments. But I mean, it just never crossed my mind that I might need to be there for someone else, right?
Absolutely.
And so that day, I was at the meeting 20 minutes early, and I was pouring coffee, and my sponsor walked in, and he didn't say nothing. He just had a smirk on the side of his face.
My man.
And that said everything that I needed to hear from
my
him,
boy.
right? Yeah. The same thing I was talking about a little earlier. When you see somebody doing something that they don't want to be doing, that was kind of the same little grin that he gave me. Come to think of it,
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that's so important that we have the right mindset of why we're doing things, because, and my sponsor used to explain it to me all the time. Like, I would say something very selfish, like I go to meetings and just take and take and take and take. Well, he just finally asked me one day, he said, "What's the root of all your troubles?" And I was so proud because I knew the answer, man. I said, selfishness and self-centeredness. See, I've been reading my book. And he was like, "Oh, but you just go to the meeting so you can feel better." Right? And I was like, motherfucker. Like, this guy gets me every fucking time. I was like, he called me out on it. He was like, "You're just going to those meetings for you. You're not going there to help the newcomer. You're not going there to help whoever's struggling. You're going for you. So you can feel better." He's like, "Do you feel better?" And I was like, "Not now." Like, I feel like a piece of shit. I was like, I need to go to a meeting, I guess, but my mind shift changed then. It was like, okay, I need to stop showing up for me and show up for someone else. And by doing that, I show up for me.
That's right.
Right? Like, so by giving, I get to receive.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like a paradox. It seems illogical, but most things in the spiritual world don't make sense logically.
Yeah.
Right? So in order to keep it, I got to give it away.
Yeah.
Things like that, right? And it's like, so in order for me to be happy, I need to show up for you. And then by showing up for you, I get what I need. Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool how that works. But if I'm only showing up for me, then I don't really get what I need, because what I really need is to see that look on that newcomer's face when that light comes on.
Yeah.
And because that's a high like I've never felt, and something you said earlier that is so true. And if we're not there, somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the way that I believe. I believe that. I think every one of us in this fellowship has a purpose. There's somebody that we are supposed to help. And if I'm not there, or if you're not there, that doesn't mean that we never miss a meeting, right? Because life happens, right? But if I'm not showing up, then I'm going to miss that I might miss that opportunity.
Right.
Because I might have an experience to share with somebody that needs to hear that experience.
Yeah.
Right. Or they might need some hope, like you mentioned earlier, that maybe I can share, because I can reach some people. I can't reach everybody. Some people turn me off. They're like, he's too rigid, or he's just too whatever. Right. But maybe that egg can get cracked by someone who's a little more gentle, or, a little more compassionate. We all in our own way have this ability through our experience to help somebody.
Well, sure.
So I think that's so important, that we show up.
Yeah. It's,
regardless of how we feel.
Right. I see the old timers, the ones that got, 20, 30, 40 years, and they're there, and if you think that they're there for themselves, they're not, but as you said, but because they're there for others, they get the blessing of another day.
Exactly.
And so it's really important that we show up in some form of fashion.
Yeah.
Now, there's a million ways to do service work, and recovery in A is a lot like the taverns, right? I mean, you've got your draft bar and you've got your martini bar, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so
I like that analogy.
a lot of that is the same in recovery. The same. You've got your draft bar meetings and you got your martini meetings, and you got people that can sponsor a whole bunch of people, and then you got other people that really don't maybe have that niche, but they sure can open up the meeting to make sure the coffee's on every day, right? Absolutely. So everybody's got a gift to give, and it's our duty to show up, find out what it is, and
Right.
and do it.
And so an important point there, right, is that it doesn't even have to be in AA, right? Like, so I've got a couple of sponsees that they got through the steps and they hadn't started like sponsoring anybody or anything like that. And, I was like, okay, well, get involved at the home group, stuff like that. But, sometimes a lot of positions fill up or whatever. I'm like, look, man, that's fine. If you can't do it in AA, go to a nursing home. I don't know, go to a school, do something to help someone else. Get outside. I don't think God is like, I only bless you if you help alcoholics. It's like we're all his kids,
Right.
So he wants us to help his children, right? So I think that's an important thing. If you're somebody out there who's thinking like, I don't know how to get involved in service, or I'm new and we have rules at my home group that whatever, but there's other ways, like you said, there's 1,000 ways that we can be of service to, whether it's another alcoholic, whether it's a senior citizen, whether it's the VA, whether it's special needs kids, whether it's food drive. Like we could sit here all day and just come up with ways that you can help the community.
Right.
Right.
I think the moral of that is to get out of self. Right.
Exactly.
And so, however you can get out of yourself, that's where the magic is. Because again, Chad likes to destroy Chad. So as long as Chad is not here thinking about Chad, I'm in great shape.
Right.
And so yeah, there are, I have found the various ways to get out of myself within the community that has nothing to do with recovery.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like you said, like Brian likes to destroy Brian, but I don't like hurting other people. So if I'm getting outside of myself and I'm helping other people, then I get everything that I need.
yeah,
And if God's given me everything I need, what else do I need?
that's right.
So you mentioned earlier, before we wrap this up, off camera, we were kind of talking about sacrifice, about putting in work to see long enough to see the results.
Yeah.
Right. And like we can relate that to recovery. We weren't talking about recovery. We were talking about something else. Right. But we can relate that, the consistency, the hard work, doing things you don't want to do, discipline, things like that, like integrity, willingness, like I could keep going and going, all these adjectives, right? But it's about showing up and sacrifice, do something that makes you uncomfortable. That's how we grow, and it might suck, but shoot your shot. Like you're going to miss every shot you don't take in life, so I just think I just want to kind of bring that up because it kind of correlates with what we were just talking of sacrificing, maybe putting my own selfish wants out of the way. I got to have it now, and delay some of that gratification. And then by doing that, when I get it, man, I cherish it.
Right.
Because I had to work for it.
And I think, don't leave before the miracle happens is a big thing as far as repetition and consistency. And I think a lot of times, both in recovery and just in life, rather it's, whatever you're doing to like better yourself. There's been many times where I've went to the gym and I was just on the verge of getting ripped or, whatever it was. And then I quit, right? And I had made all these sacrifices and I was about ready to reap the rewards of being able to climb better or do whatever, and I walked away from it right there on the hill where it was about ready to start seeing those things. And, it can happen in recovery as well, as that you sacrifice for a month or you sacrifice for 6 months or whatever it may be, and you just not quite seeing the results. You don't see it. Others probably see it, but you don't see it or feel it. And so you walk away and it was just around the corner.
Yeah, we think that the gift is wrapped up in this beautiful present and a bow on it, and we know exactly how it's going to look, when I'm going to get it, how it's going to look, and all those things. And if we don't get it on our timeline,
right, then
we get complacent,
right,
or we rest on our laurels, right? And that's happened to me in all aspects of life. It's like, okay, I'll get to a certain point, and then I'll kind of back off the gas, and I won't see it through,
Right.
because what if I see it through? It's like the fear comes back again. It's like I'm afraid I'm going to succeed. I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I'm just fucking afraid.
Yeah.
Of everything.
And that was a big fear about Alcoholics Anonymous when I first got in here was, what if this works? Like,
Right.
I mean, as sickened and I was, as sick
about
and
how that
self-destructive as I was.
Yeah.
But it was like, what if I don't drink again? Like, that,
Right.
it's crazy, but that was a real fear. I mean, it was like, what am I going to toast at my wedding? Now, I was single in a treatment center without a driver's license, yet alone somewhere to live.
Bro, that is the.
But guess what I was worried about? What I was going to toast at my wedding, right?
There was someone in a treatment center tonight talking about that. What am I going to do at my wedding? Are you engaged? No, I ain't dating no one in 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
There's someone in a treatment center right now sharing about what are they going to do for their wedding?
Right. And so
What about when I walk my daughter down now? How's your daughter? 3 months.
right. Yeah.
Bro, come
Yeah, dude. It's like, let's just take care of today real quick.
Yeah.
So the fear of the known, and then the fear of the unknown, and it can be I can play with that in a million, and I have
too.
my fears I have developed and nurtured since birth.
Yes. Sir.
And so, they've got their own little thing going on, and
They've got a million tentacles. They're like an octopus, right? They've got all these. It's in everything. The book said it's an evil and corroding thread. It's involved in everything.
yeah,
My whole life is enmeshed in it.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts, man.
it is. We're sick.
Yeah,
It's all right.
sick. Yeah, that's all right. We're well now, though.
I'm better.
Better. Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, look, dude, I had a blast doing this.
Likewise, man.
I'm so glad you came out. Before I end it, I just want to say, like, by you showing up, right? So, and I think I've told you this, but I don't know if I did or not, or if you remember it or not, but you brought a meeting into the Robert Alexander Center almost 5 years ago. I was in that meeting, right? And your story helped me, right? It helped me learn, number one, about where a place that I can go, right? Because I didn't know that meeting was right down the street. And I've lived in this area most of my life. I didn't know it was there, right? So by you showing up, I was like, oh, I have somewhere I can go when I get out of here. So, and your story was great. So I identified, there was a lot of Me Too's going on in it, right? So I just want to tell you that what you're doing matters, right? Not that you don't think that it does, but I just want you to know, man to man, like it matters to me, right? So thank you for showing up.
And that's the ripple effect, right? Is that you might not even see how you impacted someone.
Absolutely.
But it's my job. It's your job. It's your job to grab your rock and go throw it in the water and make that ripple effect, because who you touch will because of the meeting, because you went to a home group, because you got a sponsor and all that stuff, now you're helping people. So like
right. And
that ripple carries on, right?
Yeah.
Now they're doing stuff to help people. And so recovery is a beautiful thing that I'm just really blessed for not only able to do it, but the real blessing is that I want to do it, and I crave recovery.
We get to do it. Yeah.
It's not a burden. It's not a burden. So.
It's not, man. And, so you mentioned it's our job, right? And I agree with that wholeheartedly, 100%. And if I have a job, to get paid for my job, what do I have to do? I have to show up and I have to work, right?
Right.
And I get paid. So I have to treat my recovery that way. I got to show up, I got to work, and if I do, I get paid.
That's right.
Right. So, all right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. If any of you guys are struggling, comment on the video. If you need help, if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them on the podcast. All right. Thank you, guys.